So today I'm actually testing out my new ratings score and I'll explain it as I go. Um, I'm going to start rating movies based on this system that I made and see, if people like it, if people don't like it. But this will have spoilers. If you want the spoiler free version, I've got one up that'll be at the end or in the description of this video. So this is going to be part of my new series called Movie Meter, and we're just going to give objective ratings to these kind of movies because I don't feel like there's not a perfect system, right? Everyone's going to have issues with everyone's rating system, but I feel like I've got it. I feel like I've got it down. So 0 through 3 points is going to be not recommended. 4 to 5 points is going to be forgettable. Worth a watch is going to be 6 to 7, and then must see is 8 to 10. Now, the categories specifically for this one is the genre is going to be horror, and that's just going to say like how well does it deliver on the horror aspect, like how good does the video actually represent the genre that it's trying to represent, right? And then the next one is craft. So craft includes writing clarity, direction choices, performances as a whole. And that's going to be, all of these are going to be 0 out of 2 points, except for one. So cohesion and pace, so scene flow, runtime efficiency, no dead zones or confusion. This includes like loopholes and like just dumb shit that obviously, can annoy certain people, but certain people don't care. Memorability, so like iconic moments, quotable lines, distinctive imagery or ideas, stuff that really sticks with people. And then popularity signal. Now, popularity signal can actually go -1 to +2. Because basically what it takes into account is we look at the review sites and we say, what are people saying? And we basically give it a popularity boost or popularity, or a negative. Because I feel like ignoring the people is like not like a great thing to do. I don't know. Crazy me, a critic actually caring about what the people think. But we'll see how it goes. So in the beginning here, even though this movie only was made with like 8 million, and that seems like a lot for us, but as far as movies go, that's like the very, very low end of movies nowadays. They're spending 200 million on stuff like Marvel movies, right? So this movie is not made with the best budget, yet the style and what they're able to deliver is actually like pretty good looking. And this doesn't feel like a B movie. This doesn't feel like something that's not acted well. But other parts of it can, mess with how everything is delivered, in my opinion. Because just because the actors are good doesn't mean the source material is good. So, like, you can have a good actor, but if you give them a shit script, it doesn't matter. Like, they're having to act their way out of a paper bag, essentially, at that point. But the story starts as him, there's this little weather boy going to an island, and he's going to do a little bit of science. And there's already a lighthouse keeper there on the island, and he's coming there to do his little science thing. The movie does kind of fall apart with his character because it makes no sense. He goes there to do his research. He doesn't do any research. He basically packs it in after the first day and never touches it again. Makes no sense. Okay, like the plot of the movie kind of derails him, but overall, it's like still silly. It's still silly. Now they did shoot on like location. Okay, they did shoot on location. It feels good. It looks good. It's just like it's got a high quality feel. They made the atmosphere and everything feel exactly like it should feel for a film like this. All of it is really well done. It's really well done. I would honestly say that there's a lot of movies who don't go this far, and they have much higher budgets. So this for me is a really good thing. I think a lot of people enjoy it because if they do like that lighthouse like horror vibe, you know, absolutely killing it. Now, the late great Ray Stevenson is in this, and I'm gonna be honest, he kills it in this. He's an absolutely wonderful actor, in my opinion. I mean, it's a shame that he died, but regardless, I think he's a good actor. I thought so when he was alive too. It's not just one of those weird things that people do when an actor dies. He's absolutely the best part of this entire film. In the sense of he's a fantastic actor who gets involved with his work and really takes on the character. But he's also the worst part in the sense that he is a piece of shit in the film, and he's like it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, the stuff that he does in the film. But again, there are spoilers, so it's not like I haven't already said this. The scenes that will really piss people off is the fact that there is so much monster fucking in this, and just like these slight alludes to like the sexuality of these fish people and stuff like that. And I don't know if the director just had some like weird shit going on, and they were like, oh, like, I really gotta make this movie because it's my kink. I don't know, because they focus on it a lot. I would say about 30% of the film is fish pussy. And quite frankly, it's weird, it's gross, it's like, it's uncomfortable, the amount of scenes that they have pushing you toward that angle and almost justifying it or making it okay, when it really just ends up, if I'm honest, it ends up at the core of it being sexual assault. At the core of the film is just pure sexual assault against these fish people. Makes no sense why they wrote it like this and continued the bit throughout it, like getting closer and closer, and then they're like, oh, well, these things are like animals, and it's essentially like animal fucking. Essentially. I mean, there's really no way to get around it. Now, what sucks for me is I like the premise. I just don't like the content that gets focused on within the actual film, because there was so much stuff that they could have done, so much more dialogue that they could have presented. There's a lot of loopholes in the film where stuff that the characters should have done didn't do, because the way that the characters are wrote kind of falls apart midway through. And you'll notice about the 30 to 40 minute mark, it just all goes to shit. And it starts to repeat the same cycles. And if you know horror movies, you're not supposed to show the monster. Half the battle of making a good horror movie is having the monster be a present danger, but really not focus on him. Because what's more terrifying, the thing that you don't know or the thing that you're having sex with? Because that's essentially what happens. And it makes the horror aspect of this go downhill. And so that really hurts my rating when I look at like, okay, this is a horror film? Not really, is it? It's not really a horror film. It's more of like a soft kink film. In the sense that like they focus on that way too much. And even I'm focusing on it way too much. I think this is going to be a real weird one for you guys. Now, the action sequences in this are pretty well done. I've got no complaints except for the fact that this guy's a scientist, and yet he does just fine holding his own against these fish people with no apparent training or ability that he should be able to handle these things. So, again, the minor loopholes, the minor stuff in that sense, it's, it doesn't explicitly say that he can't use a gun or can't do this, but and the other guy is living on the island, and yeah, he has been defending against these himself. But essentially, everyone else that has come across these things has been killed, except for the Ray Stevenson character and this guy. And they have, the ye old plot armor. Because even this guy, he escapes in the middle of the night, and it's already said throughout the film establishes that if you go out there, you're pretty much dead because they're just going to pick you apart. But for some reason, he's able to go outside no problem. And even later on, the Ray Stevenson character succumbs to the same fate, where it's, he went outside and that's it, and clapped. And not even 30 minutes in, we get the full reveal of the monsters, which is like, for a horror movie, that's kind of like debilitating, because not only do we get a full reveal of the monsters, we get the most tame one, and it makes it downplay the rest of the movie and how serious everything is. Also, the science characters already making goo-goo eyes at the fucking thing. Like, it's gross. It's weird and it's gross, but it is what it is. But it just downplays the entire seriousness of the situation. It downplays the horror aspect, and you would think that they would have thought about that revealing the characters, putting it right in front of you, and doing all this would actually downplay the horror aspect of the horror movie. Now, again, I will say the acting and the fight scenes and the survival stuff is pretty good, but they do have this kind of recycled way that they have to do it. Now, I get it. It's an $8 million budget, but let me remind you that one of the key tenets, and especially if you go look at George Romero's movies, you can be in the same place, but not necessarily doing the same thing repeatedly. I don't know the best way to say this, but when you look at his movies, even if he's using a cabin, for instance, say he's using just a house in the middle of the fields, we'll say just a regular house. It doesn't have to be that we're always fighting at the same window. It doesn't have to be that we're always, zombies are coming through this door. Now, I get this isn't a zombie movie, but I'm saying just practically, I'm looking at a director who did a lot with a low budget, and this was years ago. And when you look at the way that he told stories and the way he did things, you can do a lot with that small area. And they do have a small area. They're basically fighting out of a lighthouse. But like the dynamics of it are very the same. Every single night is the exact same thing. Rebuild during the day, fight at night. Rebuild during the day, fight at night. Now, I want to stress that I think that this is good for a one-time watch, but I do feel like this is more of a film that you will not watch again, but you will at least I enjoyed the actual premise of it and the actual conception of it. And it is something new. It's something different. It's something we haven't seen before. It's something that pushes a little bit of those boundaries and just does something a little different. Whereas a lot of stuff nowadays is playing it really safe and trying to just give you stuff you've seen before, or give you books you've read before, or do this. They kind of went outside that. So it does deserve some credit. But as far as, it is what it is as far as, the stuff that they focused on. And we've got so many scenes that I'm just going to show you guys a few where he's making it seem okay that this is a normal thing, that this is legit okay. It's a lot of scenes of justifying it, making it less weird or whatever. But in my opinion, it just makes it more weird that we're trying to sit here and do this. They could have wrote the film any way they wanted to, and this is the route that they chose. You know what I'm saying? Now, to their kind of benefit, there is a pretty dynamic scene change where they change locations and they're out here and they're cold and they're trying to fish up some of this dynamite to use against the fish people. I thought it was a really good change of pace, and it really moved them outside of stuff. But it's clear that when whoever wrote the script, they realized it wasn't long enough, and they've just stretched the movie out, but tried to play some of the stuff off as leading somewhere. rather than actually doing anything. Because you could only have so many scenes where the character sits there in like a 10-second silence and kind of stares at the screen, right? Or stares off into the distance. You can only have so much of that before it just, quite frankly, is not worth it. It's not worth doing the film if you can't at least pace your dialogue and pace your movie out. Like, you're trying to stretch this movie out longer than it would have been. You know, like, what if it was a 90-minute movie, you know? But they stretch the material that they have, obviously, but this is one of the better scenes. And honestly, one of the biggest complaints was the CGI. I thought it was not as bad as people said, but I get their point. I get their point that the CGI was what it was. But they also used a lot of practical effects, and I didn't hate that at all because I enjoy practical effects. I think that there's a lot of people nowadays who actually want the industry to move at least a little away from relying on totally like CGI stuff, because it can get really annoying. But I didn't hate the CGI, but I will say it was a big complaint with most viewers that the CGI just was overdone and all this. Now, the end of the movie, quite frankly, it does one of those things where the writers can't really think of an ending, and so they end it, and they essentially cope it out. They just say, oh, well, you know, it is what it is, you know. They just completely coped out the ending where they say, oh, okay, well, we're gonna leave whatever you think up to you. We're gonna go ahead and peace out of here. The ending is super unsatisfying. I actually think that a good ending, as far as the industry goes, just does not happen enough, because they either leave it open-ended for a second movie, because that's what they hope. They hope to just make series. They would rather make series than bet on a new idea. But in this case, they leave it completely open-ended and don't really do anything with it. So now I'm going to get to use my new grading system, and y'all just tell me what it feels like to you. Now, personally, I'm going to give the genre score is going to be a 1 for me. Why it's going to be a 1 is it doesn't totally go against horror, but it doesn't totally like honor it either. And it tries to be too many things. It tries to be a romance, it tries to be a thriller, it tries to be action, it tries to be too many things. It's like, I would rather you do one thing really well than like several genres mediocre. It's not a 0 because it does play into it. It does try to at least put itself on that path. So we're going to give it a 1. Now, craft is writing clarity, directing choices, performance as a whole. I'm going to also give this a 1 because there was plenty of plot issues and plot holes and loopholes that you could say with this, where you're like, okay, well, why would he do that when he can do this? So that's one of those big things. So we're going to give it a 1. Because we could give it a 0, but I just feel like they did something, right? Now, cohesion and pace. This is going to be scene flow, runtime, efficiency, no dead zones or confusion. Again, this is going to be a 1 because there's plenty of confusion. There's plenty of dead zones. There's plenty of runtime problems and scene flow issues, okay? But at the same time, it's not 0. It's not 0. Okay, then memorability. Memorability, I'm actually going to put at a 2. And the reason why I'm going to put this as a 2 is because I do think that this is a film, regardless of what it the quality is. Regardless of whatever the quality is, here's the thing. It will be memorable. 2 months from now, 6 months from now, or whatever, maybe you still will be like, remember that fish pussy one that we watched? Maybe you might be like that. But it also had a pretty unique idea. Like if I were to say, hey, you remember that movie we watched, The Lighthouse and the Mermaids? You're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. You're not going to get it confused with some other movie. It's not something that's been reused a ton. It's literally its own thing. And I will say I'm going to give it a 2 because I feel like regardless of anything, it did have distinctive imagery and it did have a distinct idea, and it didn't have much quotable lines. So it's not one of those where you're going to quote it like fucking think of like a Shrek movie, right? Do the roar. Okay, it's like it doesn't have the quotable lines, but iconic moments is definitely, iconic for the wrong reasons, but it's definitely up there. Now, popularity. Okay. Popularity with this movie is something that we will explore right now, and I'll explain how it works. So for the popularity score, what we're looking at is this number here, and this is the actual people who watch this, okay? And we really care about what they have to say. So if we got an 80 or more, it's 2 points. 60 to 79% is 1 point. 40 to 59 is 0. 10, really 0 to 39 is -1. So this actually got a 0 because it fell in to that 40 to 59 area. So straight up, it didn't get any popularity from people, and that makes total sense, right? That makes total sense. But just to clarify, basically this score, the higher it is, it gets more points on your popularity. Because I do care what people say. It's not just my opinion that matters. Yeah, I'm critiquing it, but let's be honest, reviewers need to start paying more attention to what the audience says and not just being stupid, superficial dickheads about just whatever movie. So where does that put us on my grading score? On my system? Well, 0 to 3 is not recommended, and forgettable is 4 to 5. This is a 5 total score, so forgettable will be what it is. And what is a forgettable movie? A forgettable movie is one of those that you walk out of the theaters and your partner asks you, did you like it? And you go, it was all right. You're not going to watch it again. You're not really going to write home about it. You probably won't recommend it to anybody. You probably won't even talk about it after, a while. And you'll probably end up forgetting it. Despite the memorable moments, forgettable is just a movie that you forget about until someone really says something about. It's not one that you bring up to friends. It's not one that you really go and tell people about. And quite frankly, that is what this movie is. Unless somebody's talking about it, you're not even going to remember you watched it. And a forgettable movie just is one of those things where you go, it was all right. I don't hate it. I don't love it. That's a forgettable movie. So that's what I'm going to give this one, is a 5 out of 10. I still think this is good for one watch if you have time to kill. If you don't, there's much better films. Don't put yourself through it. But it's good for a watch. Just to explore ideas that aren't really explored that much. But I want to thank you all for watching. And if you like this scoring system and you liked how I did this, go ahead and tell me in the comments. And I'm going to be making more of this.